There's a strong chance you're not that far off from winning in business and at the game of life. It just takes one idea, but you gotta have unwavering belief and burning desire. If you can couple that with a lockdown strategy that's fueled by heart, hustle, and muscle, you got a shot at winning. There's one thing that all champions have in common. They get shit done. So welcome to the Get Shit Done experience. Well, we are back at it again. You are in studio here. This is the Get Shit Done experience. We also call it the GSDX podcast. And by the way, if you want to check us out at www.gsdxpodcast.com, we certainly love that. Across all platforms, we're talking about Apple, Spotify, we're even on Amazon. So if you want to go on there and download, that would be amazing. How about a rate and review? We'd love that from you. And then, of course, we're on YouTube. We've got our own YouTube channel. Hop over to YouTube and subscribe. It would definitely help us out as we continue to progress in the podcast. I'm here today with one of our absolute bombshell staff members. He's director of help desk. Right, we're here with Eric Wiechert. Eric, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I know it's a long time coming, and I'm just thrilled to be here talking about IT and other things. And so far, all the episodes have been great. So
awesome, appreciate it. Yeah. Well, that means a lot because you happen to be a podcaster yourself. You're doing it more as a side gig, having a little fun with it around the house, and but got your own show going.
Yeah. So back in 2020, back when COVID hit, me and a couple buddies, we just were sitting around thinking, what else is there to do? We're all kind of stuck inside, so we started kind of a geeky, nostalgic, nerdy podcast talking about Marvel and movies and things like that. So we did that. We had like 150 episodes.
That's awesome, man.
And then,
I mean, that gets you in top 1 percentile right there just by getting past 100 episodes.
Yeah, it was, we were releasing a Tuesday episode, a Friday episode. It was a lot of work, but it was fun. It was just something for us to do. And then we kind of took a pause, and then me and my cousin and my other buddy started another one. And we did like 100 episodes there. So
nice.
It's just fun. I feel like I'm in my element, but I wasn't on camera. So
aren't all podcasts geeky though? If you're being, let's be honest, but I'm happy to be part of the network of geeky podcasters that are a little bit loony and are willing to get on and just talk, man. Just go.
Yeah, it's just fun. I feel like I'm in my element, so I'm excited to just talk shop,
So for folks that are tuning in, you've had an extensive career within the IT space. Get us started a little bit. Like, how did you get into IT? Yeah. Were you the type of kid that was just messing around with video games, messing around with soundboards? Were you a DJ? Like, how did you kind of get into like the technology piece? And then when did computers kind of hit you and you're like, yeah, this is the lane?
Yeah. So, I grew up on video games, on computers, and some of you out there are going to be like, well, back in my day, man, you're young.
I was playing Mike Tyson Punch-Out, baby.
There you go. My first family computer was a Windows 95. So there tells you where I was at. I grew up in the 90s, and I just remember enjoying playing all the games on there, like Ski Free, Solitaire. Like, I was so amazed with the Paint program. Yeah. And then we finally got a Nintendo at some point, and I think it was just a mix of the puzzles and playing video games, solving problems, and then just sitting at a desk behind a computer just having fun. It was always a good experience for me. And so when I was growing up...
Became like a whoopee?
Yeah,
like your safety zone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I would go there after school or whenever I could, and I would be the kind that would, even back from high school, I'd get home from like football practice, whatever. I'd just sit in the basement and be online all day. AOL, clicking away. And if there were IT issues, I think it really started, I don't know, maybe in middle school when, my mom didn't know how to print or a family member was having trouble like playing a game or something. I was kind of the go-to, even in the neighborhood. So from a very young age, I knew I enjoyed computers. I never thought I'd be an IT support. What was that about, right? Like I was good at it and I knew it. And most of the time my resolution was, please just step aside. Let me take control.
You were the company computer guy, like the Saturday Night Live skit.
Exactly.
Move.
Yeah, exactly. Move.
There's always savings, but it's about way more than savings alone. Total Technology Solutions Group redefines managed print services. Excellence is the minimum standard. TTSG is a true managed print service provider, deeply understanding your technology and business goals. Your business is unique. Our solutions are tailored to your current and future business goals. Our customer-first approach empowers and delights. TTSG can ensure your technology environment will scale as your business does. So as you navigate business and constant change, partner with TTSG for premium advisement and seamless implementation of your technology goals. We set the bar high. Your people deserve it. Peace of mind, powerful innovation, ttsg.com.
And so when I got to college, I knew that I wanted to do something in computers. So I tried to go for an OMIS degree. What was it? Operation Management Information Systems at NIU, and they had a good business program. And a couple years into business, I didn't do so well with the finance and accounting and all that, like not really what I wanted to do. And so I switched majors to just corporate communications, just kind of, I don't want to say a throwaway degree, but I didn't know what that
just
meant.
Get one and then figure it out from there.
Just get one. And, the reason I got started in IT, it's all happenstance. I think in life, a lot of these moments happen, whether you meet the love of your life or you didn't go to the grocery store and
at that moment,
and my moment, funny enough, my uncle, who I've been going to their house, we only lived about 20 minutes away from each other my whole life, and sure enough, on Christmas, right after I graduated, I was a 4.5-year student.
Okay, shout
out to all those people out there. And we were there on Christmas, and his neighbor that I've known my whole life, probably since I was like 8 years old, he swung by after the family event kind of died down, and we all just got in the hot tub. We all like smoke a cigar, celebrate, hang out. And he's like, "Hey, Eric, so what's your plan? What are you going to do now that you're graduating?" I'm like,
great. That's exactly the combo you want now.
I'm looking at my dad. I'm like, well, I'm hoping to take like a month or two off school, take a little break. I'm, not that I'm that fortunate, but like, I just got done.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Let me breathe.
Let me take a moment to breathe. And it turns out he's like, "Hey, well, can you do me a favor? Can you add a YouTube video to a PowerPoint that I'm making for my company?" He's like, "I'll send you the file. Just I want it embedded. I don't want just the link there to click."
Yeah.
And this is like, kindergarten stuff for me. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'll take a look. No problem." I'm not trying to play it off like I don't know what I'm doing, but like, yeah, I got you. So he sends it over on a Sunday. I send it back to him on a Monday. And then 2 days later, I get a check in the mail for $250 from him, from his company. And I'm like, whoa. And I'll call him B. B, what is this about? He's like, "Oh, don't, just thanks for your help." Like, did I look like I was living on the streets or, hey, thanks. So I asked him, I'm just like, "So B, what company do you work for? And what do you," he's like, "Oh, I'm the CFO of this IT support company." And he's like, "Hey, by the way, you seem to know a lot about computers. Do you want an interview here?" And I was like, okay, this is a couple weeks out of college. And, I just so happened to run into him in the hot tub. And about 6 days later, I get an interview, and it's just for a level 1 position at the help desk. And I did a pretty good job. And they asked me back for a second round interview. And he's like, "Listen, I'll get you the interview. I know nothing about computers, as you know. The rest is on you." And for me, I really didn't know what I didn't know. And it was a little bit scary because I had no experience in the IT field outside of my own personal. And that's all I could really talk to. And the people that I was talking to, I could tell they could read through the BS. So even if I tried to go online and like Google questions and answers, that was all out the window. I'm like, "Listen, I just got to bring whatever I have to the table at this moment in my life and go for it." And so sure enough, I got the job. And the first day on the job, there was actually 2 spots open, me and one other level 1 guy. And they gave me the question, which I think was the most important decision I made so far in my career, besides many others, is they asked, "Do you want to be on site for one of our customers where you only learn one thing and their environment? Or do you want to be working for our MSP here and learn 25 customers and just your mind's going to be blown?"
Diversify your brain power.
And I sat there probably for milliseconds, what probably felt like a year in my head. And I'm like, and so I picked the MSP. Okay. And so that was my first job ever, was sitting down and just being, I don't know, just like my jaw dropped with all the people.
When was that? What year?
That was 2011.
Okay, so
2010, 2011.
We're working on a 13, 14-year career with MSPs now.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of, in a funny way, I kind of feel like Bane. Like I was born in it. I was molded by it. This is the only environment I've ever known. And so I think that's the difficult part about, sometimes nowadays hiring some folks is if you really haven't experienced it, it's tough to get into because you got to know a lot and you got to be able to multitask and remember a lot. And so that was one of the really exciting parts, was taking that avenue to go to the MSP as opposed to just a single customer, because I feel like I would have learned it in a couple weeks and then I would have been like, damn, why didn't I do that? I always like the challenge, right? So that was where I got started. It was at an MSP, and they were around for a number of years. They were a smaller company, and it was nice to just get to know everybody, and your work was very highly visible. So that's kind of where I got started.
So Eric, now as director of help desk for GSD Technologies, give us kind of an understanding of what does that entail? Obviously, as a director, I know you're talking about not only the day-to-day management of a team of people that are 24/7 help desk for our customers that are calling in on a regular basis.
Yep.
But also thinking big picture, vision, strategy. So kind of walk us through a little bit of like, what does the role entail that you're tackling on a daily basis?
Yeah, great question. So like you mentioned, a big part of the day is just making sure the desk is running, making sure the people are here, they have what they need, and I need to be able to support them. So the biggest thing for me that I like to just make sure the team knows is that I've been in their shoes. I started at an MSP at level 1. I will never ask them to do anything I wouldn't do myself. No work is beneath me. So that's kind of a day-to-day activity for me. But the bigger portion of this that Tim and I talked about, which great episode, by the way, Tim, you got to do some more, is that we're trying to grow the business. And I don't want to say I've been there and done that, but that's what I did at my last position. I took us from 5 people to a team of 35 and lots of layers. And we were 24/7 and global. And that was fantastic. And I want to do that here. So a lot of what I'm going to be doing now that we're all under one building is pre-sales activity, onboarding, working with the engineering team, trying to provide solutions for our customers and really add a lot of value. So my hope is at some point, as I start to expand the team, is adding those layers to allow people to grow, because I only want team members that want to grow. I don't want someone that's sitting here that wants to be level 1 forever. That's fantastic if you love to do that. Shout out to those people. But I want team leads. I want supervisors. And that will allow me to...
Career path, right?
Exactly. Keep an eye on the desk, but be able to be out there with new customers, potential customers. Because to be honest, the sales team here are doing a fantastic job. I love everything they're doing. Nick's episode was fantastic. It was a real, almost, I'll say tearjerker, but also very heartfelt. I love the things you guys talked about. But a lot of times they want to hear from the people that will actually be running the show.
Absolutely.
Once the sale is made, now it's in our hands. Of course, sales will get involved if the customer is unhappy, which we hope doesn't happen. That's our goal. But a big portion of that is pre-sales.
So help desk is very much customer relations, right? I mean, because likely after the sales process, even though we're going to maintain the relationship and check in and do QBRs and those types of things and what have you, more than likely the majority of the communication coming in is coming into your team. So really they're upholding the brand promise.
Right.
Yeah. And they're the voice of the organization as it relates to what the customers that we're interacting with are hearing and feeling from our organization. So based on that, you seem to be a pretty principled guy. In fact, I shouldn't say seem to be. I know you are a principled guy. I was taught a long time ago, right, that somebody asked me, do you want to get promoted? I was like, of course I want to get promoted. He goes, great, find your replacement.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, okay, that makes some sense to me. Essentially, he was saying, look, you can't move up in the organization until you have somebody that can take your seat and probably do it a little bit better. And then you can progress to the next thing. So in order to do that, you have to have very defined values and principles that somebody can slide into, so that as you move up, you're able to continue to kind of bleed those principles and that purpose into your team.
Exactly.
So what is that for you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's something that I did well at my last job and the previous job before that, but it's something I pride myself on, where I want to find that person. And, it needs to be a little bit of a push, but also come naturally to some people. I want them to take what I've built and expand on it. I don't want them to change everything, but I also want them to feel like it's their baby.
Yeah, take it, make it better.
Exactly. And so when I have my monthly one-on-ones with my team members, I talk about all these things. I want to make sure we're in line with your career path. We talk about the challenges you're facing, the areas that I want you to get to, and my challenges for you. And also the folks that are doing their day job, but also being able to take on more responsibility. That's kind of what it takes to get to the next level. I think it was a common misconception with a few folks I've worked with in the past that were underneath me. They thought when you move up, there's less and less work and more and more money.
No, it's moving up means that you did your current role with a level of mastery, but you also did it fast enough that you had more bandwidth.
Exactly. And
so you could take on more.
Yeah. And I think for me, it is all about finding that right person, because what I want to try to build and grow is that culture of why are customers coming to us instead of going elsewhere? And it's got to be the processes, the documentation I put in place, and the overall culture. Level 1 and level 2, any level is so important to this organization. We wouldn't be here without our customers. I wouldn't be here without my team. That is the most important role. And to find those, I'll say, diamonds in the rough for the team members where you can spot, they've got more in them, and talking to them and really trying to say, hey, I appreciate what you're doing, but I also want to give you a couple side challenges here. Let's see if you can do it. And if you can do it well, no promises. But the way I operate, just like I think any team or organization is, I want to promote the MVP of the team. I'm not going to promote the person that just like goes up and swings once and strikes out and then they're afraid to ever hit the ball again. I want the person that's here consistently doing the work and being able to do my job so that when I turn around and move up to whatever's next is I feel comfortable. I can sleep all night knowing the desk is run. And again, make it your baby. Take what I've built and try your best not to wipe everything away and say, all right, guys, come in whenever you want and be mean to customers and yada, yada. Keep the foundation, but build and grow onto it. Add additions and sky roofs or whatever.
So what are like three, let's say 3, 4 key principles that you have that maybe you were taught and somebody else was in that seat that you were progressing into, and maybe you took it and you refined it, and then you certainly get to a point in your career where you're typically starting off with somebody else's principles and values, and you're adopting those.
Yeah.
Eventually, you progress in your career and you get to a point where you go, now I need to establish my own values and principles.
Yeah.
What are those for you that you are bringing to not only GSD Technologies, your department, but your people, so that they can adopt those, and that's a reflection of our brand, our brand promise, and what customers are feeling? What are some of those principles that you are bleeding into the organization?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of different words I can use, and the first few that come to mind are accountability, integrity, customer service, really just saying what you mean, meaning what you say, and above nothing else, it's just a kind of an IT joke, but if it's not in the ticket, it didn't happen. So just having these common themes across the board that I want people here who really want to be here. You need to be motivated, hungry, just like you would in any other position that I want you to be here. I don't want you to just take the job to pay bills.
Don't have a job, have a career.
Right. And I think, my previous bosses, love them all. They've all been fantastic. And I think they've each given me a chapter and new things to learn in my life in terms of, one of my first boss who taught me about if it's not in the ticket, it didn't happen. He's like, it's a lot more than that. It's not just physical evidence in the ticket. It's like, be a good person, show it and demonstrate it and have it written on your sleeve that people are going to read right through you. In this business, in this world, if you're not true to yourself and you're not, showing that actions speak louder than words, then people are going to eat you up pretty quickly, especially in IT, because you can't rub anything or brush anything under the rug.
No. And, it's interesting because oftentimes, if probably all the time, you're receiving a call from somebody who's in a worse position than where you aspire to get them.
Yeah.
So I would imagine the objective that you have is to leave every call, they're in a much better spot than how they arrived.
Yeah. My second rule, I've got a whole rules of the road.
I like rules of the road.
But my first one, if it's not on the ticket, it didn't happen. My second one is fix the customer first, then fix the issue.
I love that.
They're calling because they're upset. Nobody calls the help desk because they're like, hey, how
They don't want to just check in?
Happy Friday. What are you up to? It's like, you personally ruined this, John, and I'm going after you and your entire bloodline. Whoa, so we are the punching bag of, it's a thankless job at times. So I really feel strongly that we need to, give ourselves kudos and help the team out by making sure we're giving each other pats on the back. But the biggest thing is customer service. And yes, you need to focus on building that rapport, getting that empathy in and making sure that you understand how important, even though I'm just trying to print one thing, this is ruining their entire day.
Yeah.
And they're trying to call you for help.
It's holding them up.
It's holding them up. And whether or not it's financial or, patient driven or whatever it might be, every call is so important for us. You mentioned it not too long ago, but we are on stage. Anytime we get a call, everything you got going on in your personal life, anything you're thinking about, pause all that, drown the noise out, and focus on this customer because you are going to make their day. And if you can't, even if you can't resolve it, I always made sure I left that person either laughing or giggling or like, hey, I'm going to take care of you personally. This is my name. You call me. I'm getting this to the next team who's going to fix it for you. So you stand by. But if you get nervous, if you feel like it's taking too long, you call me. And it was kind of a joke. People made fun of me at my level 1 position when I first started. I kept saying, I'm going to get my team on this. I had no freaking team.
Yeah, just multiple personalities.
Like I was just, like up in some high tower, I'm going to get my team to go there and there. We got a helicopter coming in, like I had no team, but people always looked at me like, why do you always say that? It's like, because it makes them feel better that like literally and I didn't want them to feel that it was fake. Like I needed to make sure I would write that ticket down, make sure it got to the right team and that they would jump on it, at least raise my hand to a level of authority and say, hey, this one might need to be moved out.
Well, you had a team, you had, you had ownership at the organization. So you had people to lean on, but you weren't surrounded in a pit of help desk staff members that were like, SEAL Team 6 of help desk, right? You were leaning on the executive team to essentially be like, hey, look, what's the brand promise here? How do I live up to this and all that? And the cool thing is, like, we've talked about this several times. The cool thing about GSD is that we're big enough and sophisticated enough to handle large corporations and even to place somebody on site, right?
Yep.
Most of our work is going to be remote monitoring, right? But we're small enough to be agile, to be very friendly, kind, comforting, and to really make certain that we have a level of attention to detail. Because we're not just trying to move you through the system to get to the next one, right? So we can take our time and make sure that there's really strong resolution.
Right.
And a lot of that has to do with some of the principles that you've brought in of making certain that, I had a podcast guest who said, make the thing the thing. And so I was talking to her about like, when you get out of bed in the morning, what's your main focus? And her thing was like, number one, what's the priority? And then once you know the priority, make the priority the priority. So make the thing the thing.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important when you're a smaller organization. It's not necessarily always about speed. It's about outcome.
Yes.
And if you can combine both, you're dangerous in a good way.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about the experience, because anytime someone calls in or puts a ticket in, what's that experience like? And when we work with a number of smaller companies like ourselves, one bad, spoiled experience is going to spread like wildfire.
10. Turns into 10 quick.
They all turn in, they have a pizza party on a Friday. They're like, man, that help desk, they were 0 for 1 this week, and that might be the only ticket they put in. So we're at 0%. So for us, it's all about those policies and procedures and the experiences. I expect my team to update tickets daily. So I want the user to know we're still here. We're trying to get a hold of you. We're trying to move it along, making sure that we're over exceeding expectations, making sure that we know we didn't forget about them, and also following up as best we can. We have a small enough team and a decent enough ticket queue where we can follow up the next day to make sure they're good. So just making sure we get that cherry on top and things of that nature. But ultimately, making sure every ticket is as important as the other one. We don't like to brush things aside and say, hey, this one I'll grab it, but I'll work on it later. I want our customers to know that we are here, we're ready. If it's critical enough, call us. I've got a team waiting. They're excited. This gets them through their day quicker. If, believe it or not, please call in if you got something you can't wait for. It's got to be snippy. Otherwise, send an email in. If we can fix it remotely, that's my goal. I would love for 80+% first call resolution from the level 1 team. I would love for us to be, we're answering the phone in under 60 seconds on average every single month. We're getting tickets within 60 minutes or less. So these are all realities that I want to help the team and the sales team promote, is that there's little things that will help us stand out from our competition, and having the ability to be on site, having the ability that, I've seen it a lot in my 3 months that I've been here, is that we will drop everything at any moment in time just to help a customer out. We've got great engineers, great team members that all just want to figure out this issue. And if you've never worked in IT before, but I'm sure in other organizations, if we can't figure out why that button is yellow instead of green, we will not sleep until we figure it out.
Yeah.
That's just IT in general.
That's a great principle. IT decision makers, this might sting. Frustrated with IT issues, security threats, and the stress of your technology infrastructure, your technology should blend seamlessly with your business objectives. Technology infrastructure management with limited resources can be exhausting and counterproductive. Do you have an MSP but still have problems and technical hiccups? GSD's advisement, proactive maintenance, cutting-edge cybersecurity, cloud solutions, data backup, and local 24/7 help desk can change the game. Your technology should outpace your business operations to allow for growth, and proactive strategies should prevent issues before they arise. Get back your time and your money with GSD. Drive business forward. Leave the technology to GSD. GSDnow.com. So you talk about customer experience, and I'm a brand person, right? So I talk about brand experience, and branding is about, in my opinion, is about how you create a community. It's how you draw people in. It's how you make people feel when they see your logo, what they associate the logo to as it relates to a feeling. And part of that brand experience is the customer experience. So you have the employee experience, you have the customer experience. You certainly have the perception in the marketplace that plays a role in that. And so as it relates to the customer experience that you're creating, give me one of your most proud moments. I know that I've been here twice as long as you for 6 months, and you've been here for 3 months, but already in a short time, because we have intimate partnerships with our customers. I've already gotten some amazing feedback of the way that we interact with customers and the response time and feedback that really fuels you as a human being to want to really fight harder within your career, right? So in your time, give me a really cool story where somebody called in, maybe they were on the verge of tears, maybe they were super upset, maybe they were, like it was 4th and goal and there's 2 seconds left and they need you to come through. And like it makes your heart full when you relive this story in your mind. Give us something like that.
I mean, this one sticks with me because it was my second week on my first level 1 job at the MSP, and one of our biggest customers was a children's hospital. And Dr. Smith, I don't know if I'm sure there's a number of Dr. Smiths, but I just remember the name. They called because they could not get into Epic EMR. And Epic EMR is their patient program that allows them to get medication and give it to the children. And he basically, after I gave my intro of, "Hi, this is Eric. Can I get your last name, please? Eric, I need you to listen to me very carefully. This is Dr. Smith. I'm in Epic. It froze. I clicked a medication button. I need you to tell me right now that it went through. Otherwise, if I click this twice, I might kill a child." And I just took a step back, like, hold on, really quick. What?
Okay, that's deeper than I thought you were going to give me.
I'll start deep, but then we'll go to the more exciting ones.
Right in the throat.
But it was a shocking moment where I was able to, with the tools and the documentation and everything we had, I said, "Please give me one moment. This is critical. I totally get it." And with the training that I had, even though it was 2 weeks in, my team lead was right there with me. I was able to make sure that we unfroze the session. It only went through once and basically saved his day and potentially saved a life. Whether or not all that was real or true, I don't know, but he sounded very serious. I
don't know why somebody, especially a learned doctor, would call in and say something like that. So I would imagine it was very true.
So that's the deep one that really stuck with me. Another one, I won't go with the Children's Hospital because there's so many there. I mean, they're just the greatest people ever, just calling in and wishing you praise. But there was a CEO of a smaller company who didn't really know how to work technology. And this was all of 4:58 on a Friday afternoon. They called in and said, "Hey, Eric, I'm having trouble making this PowerPoint, and can you help me?" And it kind of went back to my original, how I got the job, just a little flashback. So I log in and, we're working on the PowerPoint, just kind of, where does this go? How can I make this better? How do I add more text box? Things like that. Okay, cool. Well, can we go to the next slide? And so, okay, go to the next slide. And I'll say this, it was an hour and a half later, went through 25 slides. This was for the CEO who had a very important business meeting the next day. And I'll say by slide 3, I was in my head, I'm like, oh, I know exactly what they're doing. They're just making me do this whole PowerPoint, aren't they? And come to find that after they went to their meeting, they called the owner of my company that very next day and told them what I did. And on a Wednesday afternoon, 6 months into my job, I got a raise.
Yeah,
just from that experience.
Amazing. And they're just going all out.
Just the kudos I received, and I guess that was me internally just being like, listen, this is white glove treatment. This is what I signed up for. So suck it up and do it. But also look at what comes from that.
Yeah,
the positivity from the CEO. It just made their day, made their sale or whatever it was.
But that wasn't why you did it. Right. No. Okay. So where does that come from? Because there are a lot of people who have been like 4:58 on a Friday. Oh, I don't care if it's a CEO. I'm 6 months into this job, which means likely you were in your early 20s.
Yep.
And the early 20s happy hour on a Friday is a pretty cool thing, right? Because you're getting a paycheck.
Yep.
So you hung in there and you gave them everything that you had. Mm-hmm. That is a principled thing. That's a purpose thing. So where did that come from?
Gosh, growing up, I had a great childhood. I had parents that were very, and are very, close to making sure we're good people. They taught us great values. My dad worked very hard. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, so she took care of me and my older sisters. And I think just seeing my dad's drive, he worked for Motorola for 35 years and retired pretty young. And just seeing that drive, that motivation. I got into sports very young. I played sports from, who knows, T-ball to,
till they told you couldn't play anymore.
Yeah, until senior year of high school. And then I'm like, you know what? I want to take a break from sports.
When they found out your 40 time was 6 seconds, they said you're done.
All right, old man, get out of here.
Yeah.
And so I think it really came from a lot from my parents. They're just very compassionate people. We all grew up with a lot of integrity, compassion, and we all talked a lot growing up. Just at the dinner table, it was very important to sit around and make sure that everybody got things out there. Don't hold back, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. How was your day? It was very important to talk about. And I think the customer service in me just came from, I want to have friends. I want to be liked. And I saw some, kids or people growing up where they were just kind of a-holes and they just weren't very nice, or they would, push people down or like be bullies.
Yeah.
And I didn't like that. I wanted to be liked. I wanted to have a lot of friends and, eventually a girlfriend, someday when I was growing up. And so I think a lot of that came from just seeing my parents and the demonstration in them. And, it's just been something that's lived in me for a long time. And then my first job ever.
Well, shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Wiechert.
Yeah. So, I didn't know if we were going to talk about this podcast, and I didn't want to hold back at all. Yeah. But, a part of what really drives me as well, and what kind of leads back to my parents, is back in 2012 when I was at my first job, level 1 job. I was there for about a year and 8 months, and then me and 2 buddies from college got in a serious car accident. And so it was a fatal car accident. We wrapped around a tree going 70.
Good Lord.
I shattered my pelvis in 11 places. Broke both my arms. Concussion, opened up the back of my head. There's probably others that I'm not remembering, but it was a very serious car accident. So my buddy ended up passing away. He was the driver. And I was at that job. And so basically I left on a Wednesday and I did not come back until March.
Till you could.
Yeah. This was in August, basically, 12 years ago and a week or so ago. And so that job, when I was in the hospital recovering and going through surgeries, I had like 8 surgeries just to, I had to get airlifted and all that. So I was bleeding internally. The one big thing I noticed about the company I was working for was they were there for me. They made sure whatever I needed, whatever time I needed. And I'm in and out of hospitals and trying to wake up and figure out what just happened in my life and what's going on and where's my buddy. And oh my gosh, he's gone. And then I finally got home after a couple months.
Wow.
Yeah, it was rough. And I finally got home, and this was at the point where my FMLA was up and my insurance was kind of making sure, hey, we need you to get back to work. And so they allowed me from basically my hospital bed at home, because I had to live on the first floor because I couldn't walk yet. I was allowed to do basic IT work like provisioning accounts, and my job made sure that I got my 30 hours in, even though there might have been some times where it's like I ducked out 5 hours earlier. I couldn't make it because I had physical therapy, or hey, I was really having a bad day or something. So my job was there for me, and I owe them a lot for that, and also during that entire recovery process. My mom was there. She was my full-time caretaker. So here I am at, 23 years old, almost, or 24, almost turned into 25.
Just got out on your own.
Just got out.
You're right back.
Yeah, exactly. And so, my mom was my biggest caretaker, and she was there, and we bonded so much, during that time, because it was basically from like 7 a.m. when I was waking up till 10 or 11 going to bed that she was there with me. My dad was still working. He was working his last couple of years. And so he would be home at dinner, and he would do the best he could. And even when I was in the hospital, he came every day after work.
That's awesome.
My mom was there every day, and she was the one pushing me. She's like, listen, get your butt out of bed. Like, you got to start moving, whether or not I wanted to. I had
Good for her.
I had a wheelchair, and then I had a walker, and then she would watch me do laps and things like that. And it's kind of silly. We would like just watch daytime TV and just laugh and just kind of enjoy ourselves. But she had the hard part of like, hey, she had to give me shots every day to make sure I didn't have blood clots. And
so how does something like, so in the conversation with Nick Verzillo, who's kind of, you guys are running in tandem now. I mean, as it relates to this organization, you guys are, and here's the cool thing about podcasting, right? Especially when you're doing a company sponsored podcast, you have a chance to bring on some of the staff members.
Yeah.
There is an open conversation. You learn some things. So I'm learning this for the first time. It's kind of taking me aback. So I asked Nick, like, how does something kind of life-threatening like that change your perspective, not only on every day that you're here, but also like on how you approach business? And kind of his thing was like, nothing's too big now, right? Like, it's not to say that it's easy in any way, shape, or form, but nothing is too big. Nothing is like, oh my gosh, overwhelming, right? Yep. And it kind of centers you that, hey, we're going to get through this.
Yeah.
How is that how does that translate into how you approach work? Because I would imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, when you're on your close to your deathbed, right? And you come out of it and you've got this amazing support system from your family and they're kind of pushing you and driving you, and you come out of that and it never leaves you though. Right. So how does that help you approach your day to day and just how you approach somebody who has a problem where they think it's huge and you can sit there and go, this isn't that big. This isn't that big of a deal. I know it's big to you, but look, I'm going to get you through this.
Yeah. I think if nothing else, it has really put a lot of things into perspective in terms of just like, you're right. Nothing is as big or as bad as being on your deathbed. And even when I was in the hospital, I kind of relate to Nick like this, was that I'm like, listen, I'm in a hospital bed. I'm 24. There's kids in the children's hospital that are born in the hospital and they stay there. And, there's always somebody that has it worse than you. So that was my motivation to get my butt out of bed and to go to physical therapy and being like, listen, man, yes, this really sucks, but somebody has it worse. Not saying that helped, but it was a motivator to just say like, listen, dude, suck it up, buttercup. You either lay in bed and you crumble and you just, wither away, or you actually get out and do something. And I think, as it pertains to work, I suppose any like negative feedback from customers or any frustrating moments or any, I'll just say bad days at work, it kind of helps me point back to certain days where it's like, you know what, this is not that bad. You're still working, you're still earning a paycheck. Yes, this is a shitty situation, but let's look at the positives. What can I learn from this situation? What can I get as a takeaway from here? And how can I make myself a better person? And I think going to kind of the sympathy part of things where somebody might say, oh my gosh, I tripped on the way in and I skinned my knee. I try to make sure I stay grounded in the sense that a paper cut to somebody could feel like a broken arm.
Absolutely.
So they're going through some shit and that's their stuff. I will never try to compare it to...
The reason I bring it up, though, is because when you've been through something that big, it helps you. I would imagine that it does. It helps. Well, I could probably speak to this, too, I guess. But it helps you with perspective. And by having that powerful of a perspective, it helps you to have a posture with somebody who's dealing with a problem.
Yes.
To really just like clarity. Like, for instance, there are some people when they see blood, they get calm. There's other people when they see blood, they panic. They freak.
Yeah.
People in a situation like you've lived through, it probably when there's a difficult, stressful situation, you probably, because of that journey, are now calm.
Yes.
And that's probably a fantastic attribute for somebody who's working a help desk, because you're absorbing somebody else's panic and lending calm to it.
Yes. And I think that's one of the things that, if you speak to anybody that's maybe worked for me before, is it's not just about the job. We're all humans and we need to be able to help each other out. And so if I see somebody that is acting a little bit off or they seem a little bit down, I want to just go have a chat with them. How can I help them through this? Not saying, hey, let me go tell you about my story and like, all right, mine's worse, so suck it up and get back out there. But how can I help them through maybe a difficult situation, whether it's personal or at work? And, I'm no psychologist, I'm no doctor, I'm no therapist, but I can use some of what I went through to just try to help them out. Yeah, and just kind of, if they need to cry it out, if they need to take more breaks, if maybe, you know what, if I notice they need to take the day, I'm going to be the one to force them and be like, listen, it's okay. We have these days, head home, sort through it, come back when you're ready, come back when you're fresh.
Create a great employee experience as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I don't want to make this into the Maury Povich show, but that's a touching story, and we're certainly glad that you're here with us.
Yep.
I do want to get into there are companies out there that have, let's say, a CIO, a director of IT, an IT manager, and maybe they have 400 employees, 100 to 400 employees. And even with 100 to 400 employees, a staff of 3 handling all of the technology, the IT, has got to be extremely difficult.
Yeah.
On the other hand, we have small to mid-sized business owners that we interact with that have, let's say, 15 employees, and their general manager, who just happens to, know how to flip on a computer and knows enough about it and was really good at Zelda when they were growing up, is given the task, because they have limited budget, to handle all of the IT. So as an MSP, we kind of have the ability to bolt onto both. Yeah. Can you elaborate a little bit on how the larger company, we can lend support to the experts, because they are experts already. We're not coming in to be the expert.
Right.
We're coming in to take things off of their plate so they can be even bigger experts and think strategically. Whereas the small to mid-sized business owner, we're going to become everything for them and protect their asset.
Exactly.
Right. So describe that a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, for the bigger company, a lot of times what we see is that they're spending a lot of money on their IT resources. They have level 2, level 3, or sys engineers or sys admins that are doing level 1 work. So they're misusing their money in that sense, where these 3 guys or gals, they're probably getting bombarded daily with tickets, and they're trying to prioritize and move stuff around. But at the end of the day, if they're level 2 or higher, they're not really going to enjoy the work, because 60 to 70% of tickets coming in are going to be level 1. So what we'd like to do is, we've got the whole level 1, level 2 team here. Let us take the low-hanging fruit stuff off your plate. We're not trying to take your jobs, which is a common misconception.
But a director of IT doesn't want to mess with copy machines, for instance.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, they don't want to mess with that stuff.
Or emails locked out.
Email, password resets, a lot of requests nowadays, distribution lists and groups and, access to teams and folders and provisioning. That's all going through, and that's stuff that we can easily take on from them, and we want them to then focus on growing their business. So use these level 2 sysadmin, sys engineers to get your business to the next level, whatever that is, a new ERP system, a new, name it, we would like to help you get there. So let our team take the stuff away from you that is bogging you down. It's just, you wanted to get to that project today, you wanted to hang this TV, but you can't, because you got 14 tickets that just came in, and oh, by the way, someone can't figure out the conference room click share. Yeah. Now I got to run there and do that. So all these things most of these things can be fixed remotely.
So the productivity is something that you are really helping the C-suite and the director level folks to deal with, not only with their staff, but for them themselves.
Yeah. We want, our goal is, I'm sure a lot of folks like those mid-sized businesses are getting people that are, let's say director level or above, that just go to the CIO. Hey, I can't print. Yeah. They go to the CIO, and I don't know all the relationships, obviously, but if I were them and I were the CIO, I'd be like, man, you're paying me this paycheck to
exactly
help you be.
So I've got the letters in front of my name, I've got the title. Yeah. But I'm doing level 2 work.
Yeah. And I think one smart move for them is, hey, I've invested in this partnership with GSD, and we are here to help support all these efforts. So, I can't tell the CEO to say, hey, pick up the phone and call the help desk. The CEO is going to CEO all day. Yeah. But for anybody else in the organization that's a certain level or lower that doesn't, require that VIP treatment, call into us.
And to get those resources right. So, they might have to hire 4 people at, let's say, $60,000 a year. You're talking about $240,000 in payroll, plus they need 2 weeks vacation. They call in sick sometimes. They've got emergencies. You need to provide them with insurance. 401k, you've got, so that 240 is probably really 280, 290 when all in. And on top of that, you have to manage them. Whereas you could probably, for a third of that,
set it and forget it.
Set it, forget it. Probably instead of having 4 people, have 10 that are focusing on it. and are 24/7 available.
Yeah.
Plus, employees get recruited away to another place, so now you got to unwind them. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're working with a MSP like GSD, they're there to support you. You don't have to unwind that unless you decide to go to another company at some point. But we have a very high retention rate. So
exactly, and the best part is everybody operates within our box. I know Tim talked about it. I know Nick talked about it a little bit. But when companies come to us, our team is already so proficient on all of our tools. We just bring you into that box, and then we can operate pretty quickly. Not saying it's a day or two turnaround. We like to go through a nice implementation process, onboarding process, to make sure when we're answering those calls day one, we sound and feel confident, as opposed to just, hey, tomorrow we're
sound
live.
like somebody who's a bolt onto your organization.
Exactly. We want to feel like that extension. We want it to be a partnership. And I think the biggest thing is just making sure they feel comfortable. And that they chose the right path, and a lot of that comes down to what is your cost of your employees.
So let's talk about the small to mid-sized business owner, because this morning as we were setting up, you walked in and we were having a conversation, as folks in an office will, about what's going on in the day and so on, and you kind of were making a joke about the fact that with what's going on with Russia and China right now, and all the phishing scams and all these different things, there's a strong chance that a small to mid-sized company might have 3,000 attacks on them that a company like us may have caught that they didn't feel.
Exactly.
That in a morning.
Yeah.
In a morning.
Yep.
Is it that bad right now?
It is that bad. I mean, now with the help of AI, which I'm sure that, for everything that's good out there, there's a bad,
probably 80% bad.
And so right now, even since we've started this podcast, I'm sure there's been another 1,000 that's hit our servers. Just, all they try to do a lot of times.
Oh, by the way, I have to hurry up and go get a $500 gift card from Target for Tim.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Do not redeem.
Don't do that.
That's so funny. And so, to think about how often we're getting attacked, and what they're really doing is right now they're just trying to use your email address and every possible password in the world. And without two-factor authentication, some of our customers, even a week ago, one of our customers actually, they got in and they created a new account. They actually set up a rule on the inbox already, and then they started to send emails from this account to others to just try to infect the whole company. And once they get enough of those accounts and they get into
then
where
they
need
hold you
to
ransom, right?
Then it's ransomware. So there's a whole mix of different ones. Nowadays, we see the ones where errors pop up saying you got to call this number, you're infected, and when they do, it's the $500 gift card thing. We've got the phishing where you click the link, and sure enough, now they're in your system automatically. And that's scary. And I think one of the things a lot of companies probably don't think about is how often you're getting attacked. And we see it on the back end. We can go into our systems and Barracuda and all and Meraki and all that and see those things. We can go to Office 365, the security portal, and see that, wow, you've had a lot of activity today from Russia, from China, from all over the world, Indonesia, everywhere, where people are just trying to get in. And that's just sadly the state of where we're at. So as much as they're trying to get in.
So for a small to mid-sized business owner, let's say 15, 20, 25 employees, it's not just about getting your phones and your emails set up. You're talking about protecting your baby.
Right.
Your business is your baby. We know this. And in many cases, it's your oldest child.
Yeah.
Because you probably started your business before you had child one, right? So your business is your baby. It's your livelihood.
Yeah.
Not having an MSP that is effective in protecting the organization, along with handling the day-to-day of allowing you to operate in a technology-driven world, is a very dangerous thing, because when it's too late, it's too late. Yeah, and then you're swiping a check that might be your life savings to get back into your own company.
100%. And I think that's what I really enjoy about the box that we operate within is anytime you're talking to sales, we're not trying to oversell you on products. We are trying to tell you that this is the tight package that will keep you secure, safe, and also will supply you with the help desk and just your day-to-day activities. But if you decide to take all but one piece of the pie, and the piece of pie is maybe you're not taking our Barracuda or something like that, you're at risk. And if we don't manage that, then who does? And if, like you just mentioned, if somebody clicks that email, we couldn't catch it.
There's some bad folks out there.
Yeah. And when it's too late, sure, we're going to do everything in our power to help you out. We're not just going to say, well, you're SOL, right? Good luck and Godspeed. You didn't buy that from us. That's not our our MO. We are here to try to fight and help save some stuff for you. But if you don't do it up front, then that's very dangerous.
Yeah. Big vision.
Yeah.
Right. We know the mission. We know what you're doing on a day-to-day. Big vision. Kind of where do you see, not only where do you see the department, but where do you see your progression? Like, what's the big thing for you? What are you focused on?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm focused on, making sure the team is fully functional, making sure we document is one of the biggest things, because without documentation, I think not even in IT, in any aspect of any department,
retrace your steps,
just to be able to know that you can expand, and then think of all the time you'd save by not sitting there having to train somebody on this over and over and over again. Just document, make a video. And so right now, it's making sure we have our processes down. The people are here. We're documenting. We're growing. And then the big vision is going from a team of 5 people to 10 to 15 to 22. I would love to say to stay in this building. Maybe we get the back warehouse
we need
to ourselves.
A bigger building.
But move into a bigger building and expand our customer base. And, whether they're small customers or big customers, we welcome them all. And, I think the vision for myself is, how can I just continue to add value to the company? And then working with Tim and team, what does that mean? Because like we've talked about earlier, I would like somebody to take my job. That's my goal of that job, is how do I work so efficiently that I'm challenging myself to do something new.
And that somebody else wants it.
And that somebody else wants it, because that's the scary part of some of the jobs that we have, and at certain levels, is if it looks scary, nobody's going to want to go near it. And it's kind of funny that, back when I was level 1 at my first job, I would see, all the C-level people and managers, man, they're going in and out of that meeting room all day. That must be fun. I'm stuck here on the phones.
You don't know what's happening in that meeting.
And then you get into the meeting on the other side, and you're like, man, I think I caught like 40% of the meeting, and I wasn't really called upon. I was just there to be of assistance. But yeah, you're right. It's all about finding what's next for me and working with Tim and team as to what does that look like. But I'd like to stay close to the desk. That's my baby. I feel like it's my business, my baby. And, I never want to get too far away to where somebody can't come up to me and say, hey, Eric, we've got an issue with this device. What would you recommend? And the minute they sniff that you're out of it and you don't know,
that's dangerous.
You're no longer in the circle.
So obviously the premise of the podcast, the Get Shit Done experience, is coming from GSD Technologies.
Yes.
So we're all about getting shit done.
Yep.
What are we know what we do as an organization. We know our way. We know, the style, the stance that we have.
Yeah.
That, it's all out, man. And we operate, right? It's measure twice, cut once.
Yep.
Right. But we're going fast. Fast with a smile on our face. What is your philosophy on getting shit done? Are you a planner? Are you impulsive? Are you super organized? Like, how do you go about doing it?
I am very proactive.
Okay.
I want to A, answer questions before they're asked, B, resolve issues before they come up, and C, already have tomorrow planned today. I feel like in IT, if you don't do that, then you're screwed, because you can plan maybe 20, 30% of your day, but the rest of it's going to be a mystery because users are calling in, stuff's breaking down, somebody can't get in their email, whatever. You get taken away because maybe there's a building outage. But for me, it's all about being proactive. And if I'm not, I feel like I'm behind. I feel like even for this podcast today, I was trying to, even yesterday, just make sure I'm ready, mentally ready to come in, even though I've done podcasts before, but like, shoot, I want to make sure we hit these talking points. I want to make sure, I've got it all together and I'm not too nervous or anything, which I'm not. This is great. It's such a comfortable conversation. But I think for me and the rest of my team, I try to instill that in them, is like, make sure you're prepared, because I want to put the fire out before it starts. That's the whole game of IT, is who is going to potentially escalate something and why? Is it because of time? Is it because of the situation? Let's get to them. Let's kind of move the puzzle pieces around and make sure that we're ready.
Awesome. You heard it here first, folks. It's about preventative maintenance.
Yes.
It's about being prepared, and it's about operating with a style and a posture that is kind and warm and welcoming and has a level of speed to it, right?
Yeah.
So, Eric, I want to thank you for being on. I want to remind you, sir,
Likewise.
You got shit done.
I did. Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Can your business handle 15% growth? If yes, you have to engage with 2020 Design. They fuse data and creativity to stop the scroll, break through the noise, and grab the attention of your future customers. 2020 Design will create competitive, click-worthy campaigns, design and build custom websites, spark your social media presence, and structure email campaigns that get right to your audience, the decision maker. Let's boost attention and awareness, which allows you to convert more sales. Check them out at 2020design.com. That's the number 20, TWENTY, design.com.